Picture an ancient human on the African savanna, 200,000 years ago. He's just made a kill. He squats down in the dry grass, tears into the meat with both hands, spine curved forward, shoulders rounded, head dropped, completely absorbed in eating. Bad posture. Textbook bad posture. And he'll do this for the next hour. Then he'll squat by a fire the same way. Then he'll sleep curled on his side. Then he'll wake up and run 15 kilometers without a single muscle complaint. No chiropractor, no lumbar support, no one telling him to sit up straight. Today, back pain is the #1 cause of disability on the planet. 80% of adults will experience it seriously at some point in their lives. And the first thing every physio, every parent, every office wellness poster tells you is, sit up straight. But what if that advice, the single most repeated piece of posture guidance in human history, is solving the wrong problem entirely? What if the rounded back isn't the issue? What if it never was? Here's something the next YouTube tutorial on proper sitting posture won't tell you. The human spine is not straight. It never was. It has 4 natural curves, 2 that bow inward, 2 that bow outward, and the lowest curve, the lumbar, actually decreases when you sit in a fully upright position. You are working against your own anatomy every time you force your back into a rigid vertical line. Forcing an exaggerated upright posture increases compression on the discs at the base of the spine. It engages the paraspinal muscles, the long muscles that run along either side of the vertebrae. In a sustained isometric contraction, they were never designed to hold for hours. Within 30 minutes, those muscles fatigue. And when they fatigue, the real damage begins, because now the load transfers from the muscles, which are designed to absorb it dynamically, onto the discs and joints, which are not. Meanwhile, a gently rounded sitting posture, the kind the ancient human on the savanna was using, actually distributes load more evenly across the posterior spinal structures. It's not ideal for every context, but it is not the villain it's been made out to be. The real problem isn't how curved your spine is, it's how long it stays there without moving. But this raises the obvious question. If the position itself isn't the issue, why does sitting hurt so many of us? And why didn't it hurt them? We've just dismantled the straight spine myth. But the ancient human story goes deeper than posture, because the reason they could sit hunched over a kill for an hour without consequence has almost nothing to do with the position itself, and everything to do with what happened before it and after it. Your spinal discs don't have their own blood supply. They're fed by movement, specifically by the compression and decompression cycle that happens when your body shifts, walks, bends, and rotates. Every position change is essentially a pump, pushing fluid and nutrients into the disc tissue. When that pump stops running, the discs begin to dry out. They compress unevenly. The surrounding muscles, held in the same firing pattern for hours, accumulate metabolic waste they can't clear. Nerves get sensitized. What started as stiffness becomes pain. The ancient human eating in that crooked squat on the savanna was not, in any meaningful sense, stationary. He had spent the previous 6 hours walking, sprinting, crouching, climbing, and carrying. His spine had been loaded and unloaded across dozens of different angles and positions. Every muscle in his posterior chain had fired, stretched, and recovered multiple times. So when he sat down to eat, rounded, relaxed, curved, his discs were fully hydrated, his muscles were warm and responsive, his joints were mobile. The position was fine because the body coming into it was fine. Compare that to the average office worker at 3 p.m., 7 hours of chair sitting, same hip angle, same lumbar position, same muscle activation pattern, or rather, the near total absence of one. The discs compressed for hours with no pump cycle. The glutes switched off. The hip flexors shortened and tightened around the pelvis. That person stands up, rounds forward slightly to pick something up, and throws their back out. Same position, completely different body arriving at it. The rounded back didn't cause the injury. The 7 hours of stillness before it did. But there's still one more piece of this that most people miss, and it might be the most counterintuitive part of the whole story. In 2018, Anthropologist David Reichland studied the Hadza, a hunter-gatherer group in Tanzania, one of the last populations living the way ancient humans did. He found something surprising. The Hadza sat for roughly the same number of hours per day as Western office workers, but they had almost no chronic back pain. The difference was in how they sat. When Hadza adults rest, they squat deep, they kneel. They sit cross-legged on the ground with the hips in full flexion. These positions look passive. They are not. They require the hip stabilizers, the deep core muscles, and the spinal extensors to maintain low-level continuous activation just to hold the position comfortably. The spine is curved, sometimes significantly, but the muscles are still on. A chair does the opposite. It is an engineering solution to the problem of muscular effort. It removes the need to stabilize. It lets the glutes fully disengage. It allows the hip flexors to shorten into a fixed angle and stay there for hours. And crucially, it is so stable that the body never needs to make a micro-adjustment, never shifts weight, never recruits a new set of fibers to redistribute load. The chair is comfortable precisely because it asks nothing of you. And that, biologically, is the problem. Ancient humans rested in positions that were just uncomfortable enough to keep the system running. Not in pain, not exerting effort, but not fully switched off either. The spine was always receiving some input, some load variation, some signal to stay ready. Modern rest removes all of that signal, and the spine, deprived of input for long enough, essentially forgets how to respond when asked to move again. So let's say it plainly. The rounded back is not your enemy. It is a natural, anatomically supported position that the human spine moves into and out of thousands of times a day under healthy conditions. Ancient humans held it while eating, while working, while resting. Their children grew up in it. Their elderly died without ever having experienced the specific, grinding lower back degeneration that is now epidemic in the developed world. The enemy is duration. The enemy is uniformity. The enemy is a life structured so efficiently around sitting that the spine spends entire days loading in a single direction with no variation, no pump, no signal. What the ancient human had wasn't better posture. He had a life that made any one position temporary. He was always about to do something else. And that constant transition from squat to stand, from carry to crouch, from walk to sit, is what kept the spine healthy across an entire lifetime. The real prescription isn't sit up straight. It's don't stay in the same position for too long. Back pain isn't a posture problem. It's a movement problem. And solving it doesn't require a perfect chair or a perfect spine position. It requires understanding what your body was actually built for. And what ancient bodies were built for goes far beyond just movement, because the same intelligence that kept their spines healthy also governed something else entirely: how they kept their groups together, how they dealt with people who broke the rules, how they enforced social order without a single law written down. What they did to rule breakers was quiet, calculated, and psychologically devastating. And the mechanism they used? Click this video to find out.